Let's talk about a new commitment for the BYU football program, the 16th commitment, by the way, of the 2025 recruiting cycle, and that is Kingston Keana'aina. And I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. He's got a really, really cool last name because Keana'aina, I really like that. But more importantly, he's got the game to fit not BYU's defense, BYU's offense. He comes to BYU by way of Mountain View, California, and St. Francis High School. If I recall correctly, and this just shows my BYU nerddom out there, I want to say St. Francis was the same school. If you remember Camel Green, who played defensive back for BYU, he was one of the two transfers from Washington State back in the day that brought Squally Canada to BYU. Camel Green has gone on to do a lot of stuff in the entrepreneurial circuit, but I believe he was a St. Francis High School alum, and cool to see Kingston deciding to sign with BYU. Now, he is the second running back commitment in this recruiting cycle for BYU alongside Las Vegas product, Kale Breslin. And both of these guys, speaking of Breslin, and more importantly, Kingston, Keana'aina, is that both of them bring a really distinct style I think BYU is targeting in their running backs. And what is that style, Jake? Good thing you asked. It is more in the mold of what you saw from Tyler Allgeier back in the day. Remember, Tyler, he may not be the top-end, fleet-footed sprinter type running back, but what he is super effective with his one cut in the outside zone scheme that BYU likes to run, made his reads very, very quickly, and then exploited it for huge gains. Yes, if you gave him a huge hole, he was going to exploit it, and he had enough speed to really show off in a big way. And that's what I see from Kingston Keana'aina, is he is in a mold like Tyler Allgeier, like Jamal Williams, even Squally Canada for the BYU offense, where yes, they may not be the top end running backs who run a 4.3 40, but they maybe run a 4.5, and they got plenty of size. They list Kingston here on 24/7 Sports at 5'11", 200 pounds. I've seen him listed as high as 210 pounds. And I think watching his film, from what I can observe, you're going to see him play maybe at BYU at like 220 pounds. And that's, if he's 5'11", 220, that's exactly what Tyler Allgeier was for BYU when he was doing his thing for the Cougars. I like this pickup because Kingston is a guy that I think understands who he is as a player. Because if you watch his highlight reel, you can go on Huddle. I mean, by the way, I'm going to start implementing some more of this. I found out actually I can use Huddle highlights without like getting hit with YouTube, like you've stolen video footage. So I'm going to start utilizing that a little bit more. I had to get this podcast out before I got to bed tonight. So I'll probably revisit this and talk more about Kingston when I get a chance to link that in. But what I see from Kingston on his highlight reel is this is a young man who understands who he is as a football player. And that is a big thing for a lot of guys out there, is to realize what your strengths are as a player and to exploit them and make them your key strengths. There's a lot of people out there who like to think they can do everything on the football field. And maybe there are guys who can do that. But in the case of Kingston Keana'aina, I think he understands that he's a bigger bodied running back who may not have the quote unquote home run speed, but he's got plenty to really take it to the house, especially at the high school level. You watch his high school highlights, he is shedding tackles and showing off. And the good news is there are other Power 4 programs who are chasing him, most notably, Arizona was in with an offer to Kingston, according to 24/7 Sports. He's not the most highly rated player. He's rated an 84, so it's kind of mid-tier 3-star status from 24/7 Sports. The composite rating is just a little bit south of that, 83.67. He's the 113th running back nationally, according to 24/7 Sports. But let's remind you guys, Tyler Allgeier, he was a 2-star preferred walk-on coming to BYU, who, by the way, played his first snaps at BYU at linebacker. So you can come from anywhere, seemingly, and have success. But I look at what Kingston brings to BYU, at least on tape, and he is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I do not know if he necessarily has mission plans at this point. So if I learn about that, that could change things, because he could enroll as soon as next year, or if he goes on a mission, that's 2 or 3 years out. So that's obviously a conversation to be had. But whenever he shows up at BYU, I think that Harvey Unga is recruiting to a type of running back. And Kale Breslin, I talked about this when we talked about his commitment, and I think it's very much the same thing with Kingston Keana'aina here, is that both of them are bigger-bodied running backs who understand the outside zone running scheme, are very good with their reads, are one-cut running backs, and that's exactly what BYU needs. You can't have running backs who dance in the backfield in this offense for the Cougars. This is a retooled offensive line who has been schooled in what they need to do. They've got to get off their blocks and open holes. And the job of the running back in this offense with that one cut scheme that they have with the outside zone is they've got to be able to read that and read it in real time. You can't afford to be bouncing around in the backfield, because if you do that, the simple fact of the matter is you're going to be tackled for a loss more often than you're going to pick up yardage. So I appreciate that Kingston Keana'aina understands his style as a running back, but more importantly, I think that Aaron Roderick, Harvey Unga, and even Kalani Sitake understand what kind of running backs are going to succeed in Provo, and they're recruiting to that. Yes, if they had a five-star guy, like let's say the Reggie Bushes of the world, who said, BYU want to come play for you, yeah, you take that in a heartbeat. But until that happens, if it ever does happen, guess what you do? You go and find the type of running backs that you've had proven success with, you build your offense around them, and you have success along the way. That is understanding who you are. You're a developmental program, speaking of BYU. You bring guys in and you coach them up and they get the seasoning they need. And then when they hit the field, they're more than capable of contributing to winning football. You can do a lot worse than just kind of understanding who you are as a football program. And more importantly, within that program, speaking of BYU, understanding the style of player or the archetype of players that work within your system. And I look at what BYU is doing with the running backs right now in the recruiting front, and I think that Harvey Unga understands what he wants in his running backs, and he's trying to find them no matter where they might be. In this case, one's coming from Northern California. The other in Kel Breslin is coming from the Las Vegas area. If he could find a guy in Maine, of all places, I'm sure Harvey Unga would go and get that guy if he believed it would fit into what he is trying to accomplish as BYU's running backs coach. But congratulations to Kingston. It's a really cool thing to see him getting his opportunity to play at the Power 4 level with Brigham Young University. And I really look at his highlight reel and I see something that I think is going to be something BYU can build around. They know what they need to have success with. I think Kingston Keana'aina fits that to a T. And fingers crossed, if he is anywhere near the level of a guy like Tyler Allgeier, you got another just gem, really, if you can get that type of a player out of a Kingston Keana'aina. And I wish him nothing but the best as he moves forward with his commitment to the BYU football program. So there you go. That is what I've got for you guys on this Thursday edition of the podcast. Crazy, crazy stuff, but it's fun. I'm having a blast. It was so good to be back out of football practice. I'm still sweating. I literally sat down as soon as I got home from BYU to record this podcast. So if I look a little disheveled, if you're watching this on YouTube, my apologies. But at the same time, it is go time. It is a really, really fun time of year. I look forward to college football season more than many holidays out there on the calendar. And July 31st, 2024, day one of BYU football training camp, felt like it was Christmas in July.